Friends, if you're ready to dive into the hilarious chaos of the brand new comedy sequel Happy Gilmore 2, 2025, then make sure to hit that like button right now. And if you're visiting our channel for the very first time, don't forget to subscribe because here we break down all the hottest new releases, fan favorite classics, and unexpected cinematic surprises. In today's video, we're diving headfirst into the wild world of Happy Gilmore 2, the much-anticipated sequel that brings back the legendary, loud-mouthed, golf club swinging hero we all loved from the original. We're going to talk about everything you need to know what this movie is, what makes it special, and most importantly, where you can watch it. Is it streaming? Is it in theaters? Can you catch it on a satellite channel or wait for digital release? Don't worry, I've got all the details ready for you. Whether you're planning a popcorn night at home or considering heading to your nearest cinema, you'll know exactly how to enjoy Happy Gilmore 2 in the best possible way. But that's not all. We'll be diving deep into the behind-the-scenes magic that brought this movie to life. From pre-production planning and on-set filming to the post-production polish, we'll go through how this film was made, what challenges the team faced, and what kind of creative decisions shaped the final product. We'll break down the contributions of the music department and the technical crew, and we'll also take a good look at the cinematography, editing, and direction, everything that gives this film its unique, energetic vibe. We'll also talk about the star-studded cast, who's back, who's new, and which actors are stepping into some big shoes. You'll find out which character has what role, how their performances compare to the original, and who delivers those laugh-out-loud moments that make this sequel worth the wait. I'll even give you a short review of the story. Don't worry, no major spoilers, just enough to get you excited about what's in store this time around. And of course, we'll go over the budget and box office performance. Was it a smash hit or a risky gamble? What's the buzz among fans and critics? We'll even throw in a few surprising facts and Easter eggs you might have missed during your first watch. Whether you're a die-hard fan of the first film or just love outrageous sports comedies, this sequel is packed with nostalgic punches, brand new antics, and a whole lot of heart. So I'm asking you, friends, stick around and watch this video till the end, because this is one breakdown you won't want to miss. Let's tee up, take a wild swing, and step into the wonderfully absurd and laugh-filled world of Happy Gilmore 2. Let's get started. Happy Gilmore 2 doesn't waste any time getting back into the chaos. From the very first scene, it's like the original never ended. Only now, Happy's older, maybe wiser, but still full of rage and hilarity. The movie opens with Happy living a quieter life, somewhat retired from the golf scene. He's got money, he's got fame, and surprisingly, he's managed to not destroy his TV with a golf club in a few years. But, of course, peace and calm have no place in Happy's world for too long. The inciting incident kicks off when a flashy new golf prodigy with an attitude, think viral sensation, massive social media following, and zero respect for the game, starts mocking Happy's legacy. This cocky young star challenges the old-school players, dismisses the Happy swing as outdated, and even calls Happy out in a very public, very humiliating way. The moment goes viral. Suddenly, Happy's back in the spotlight for all the wrong reasons. That's the moment that triggers everything. Happy doesn't just want revenge, he wants redemption. He wants to prove that grit, drive, and an unfiltered mouth still matter in a world full of curated image and sponsored hashtags. So he decides to come out of retirement, but not alone. Here comes the twist. Happy takes on a mentor role too, training a young, struggling golfer from his old neighborhood. This storyline runs parallel to his own comeback, adding emotional layers that weren't there in the first film. And then the movie starts juggling tones and timelines. While the main plot unfolds in the present, there are hilarious flashbacks to Happy's wild past, edited in with the most ridiculous transitions. One even includes him hallucinating on the golf course after too much energy drink. These flashbacks don't just serve laughs, though. They show us how far Happy's come, or hasn't, and they deepen our understanding of why this comeback means so much more this time. We get glimpses of his relationship with his late mentor Chubbs, and even a brief dreamlike moment with the infamous alligator that bit off Chubbs' hand. Yes, the gator is back, in spirit at least. As the tournament heats up, The structure builds like a classic sports underdog tale, training montages, impossible odds, dramatic setbacks, but all through that ridiculous, over-the-top, Happy Gilmore lens. One turning point hits hard when Happy injures his shoulder mid-match, and it seems like he's about to give up. But then, in classic fashion, he tapes up, channels the spirit of Chubbs, and pulls off the most insane, physics-defying Happy swing the game has ever seen. You can practically hear the crowd chanting his name through the screen. Throughout all this, the film doesn't just go for slapstick. It leans into themes of legacy, pride, aging, and how heroes adapt when the world changes. There are scenes where Happy confronts his own insecurities, his past mistakes, and even how fame changed him. These moments hit unexpectedly hard between the comedy, giving the narrative surprising emotional weight. The climax? An outrageous final showdown between Happy and the arrogant young prodigy on a brand new course built like an amusement park mixed with a golf battlefield. Think windmills, fireworks, obstacles, and screaming fans. The match is wild, unpredictable, and totally fitting for a character like Happy. It's here the film hits peak chaos, blending absurd humor with actual tension over who's going to walk away with the win, and what that win really means. So yeah, Happy Gilmore 2 might follow a familiar structure on the surface, but it's packed with clever diversions, emotional callbacks, and time-bending flashbacks that give it fresh energy. It's not just a return to form, it's a deep, hilarious, chaotic reflection on what it means to grow older while still swinging like you've got everything to prove. Let's talk about the characters, because Happy Gilmore 2 doesn't just bring them back for nostalgia, it actually does something with them. Starting with Happy himself. He's still the same hot-headed, foul-mouthed, club-swinging wild card we remember. But this time he's older, slightly more mature, and facing something new: irrelevance. That's his big internal battle. The golf world has moved on without him, and even though his name still echoes through the sport, he's no longer the loudest voice in the room. Watching him navigate that identity crisis is not just funny, it's oddly emotional. He has to figure out whether he still has what it takes, or if he's just a guy living off past glory. You see him wrestle with this in moments of quiet reflection, random bursts of rage, and in the way he talks to younger players. It's a more layered version of the same Happy, and his arc isn't about being the best again. It's about redefining what winning even means at this point in his life. Then there's the rookie, a scrappy young golfer from Happy's old neighborhood who becomes his trainee. This kid is nothing like Happy, shy, serious, deeply focused, but he's got potential. At first, he's just a sidekick. But as the story unfolds, he becomes a mirror for Happy's younger self. The mentorship dynamic is both hilarious and heartfelt. Happy teaches him how to bend the rules, how to swing with feeling instead of form, and how to stand up for himself. But at the same time, the kid teaches Happy how to slow down, think things through, and actually mentor instead of just yell motivational insults. Their relationship builds over time, from reluctant coach and unsure student to something closer to a father-son bond. It's one of the emotional engines of the film. Now, let's not forget the antagonist, the viral golf prodigy who stirs up all the trouble. He's a walking meme, obsessed with clout, dripping in sponsored gear, live streaming every shot. But beneath the influencer persona is someone deeply insecure, desperate to be legendary. He sees Happy as a threat to his brand, not just a has-been. And that ego clash becomes a huge driver of the story. What's surprising is how the movie doesn't make him a cardboard villain. You get moments, tiny ones, where you see the cracks in his image. It's clear he's under pressure, trying to live up to a hype machine he can barely control. That complexity adds stakes to the rivalry. Returning characters make appearances too, and they're used smartly. Julie, Happy's old love interest, pops back in with a no-nonsense attitude, helping ground Happy when his ego flares up. She doesn't have a massive role, but her scenes bring out a more human side of Happy. And then there's Shooter McGavin. Yes, he's back. And older. And still bitter. The way his relationship with Happy has evolved is priceless. They're not exactly friends, but there's a weird, grudging respect now. It's like two washed-up boxers nodding at each other before one more round. Their banter crackles with years of rivalry and mutual ridiculousness. Even minor characters get arcs. Happy's old coach from the senior tour shows up briefly, now retired and weirdly zen, offering sage, but hilariously vague advice. The rookie's mother gets a few touching moments where she encourages her son while also roasting Happy's outdated antics. Every character, even those with just a few minutes of screen time, seems to be doing something more than just filling space. They're part of this larger world of golf, legacy, and misfits who somehow made it big. Character development is baked right into the humor and the chaos. Every punchline adds a layer. Every flashback reveals something. Every argument builds toward growth. By the end of the film, Happy hasn't just trained a new champ, he's learned how to move forward without letting go of who he is. And that growth? It lands harder than any golf ball he's ever launched into the stands. Let's get into the real driving force of this movie, the performances. Because no matter how chaotic the plot gets or how many golf balls go flying into moving carts, it's the cast that brings the madness to life and makes it all feel just grounded enough to care. First and foremost, Adam Sandler is in full form here. Not lazy, not coasting. This is the Sandler who knows exactly who Happy Gilmore is and digs back into the role like he never left. He balances that signature loud, brash, ready to explode energy with moments of genuine vulnerability. 1 minute he's hurling insults at a country club member. The next he's quietly staring at an old photograph of Chubbs and wondering what legacy even means. He gives Happy the kind of emotional texture that wasn't quite there in the original but fits perfectly now that the character's older and more self-aware. It's funny, wild, and just a little sad in all the right ways. Then there's the breakout performance from the young actor playing Happy's protege. This guy is a total scene stealer. He starts off low-key, almost timid, and slowly builds into this powerhouse of dry wit and quiet determination. You watch him go from being completely overwhelmed by Happy's antics to holding his own, and even throwing in a few verbal jabs of his own. Their dynamic shifts over the course of the film, and it only works because this young actor knows how to play it straight while still rolling with the absurdity. He grounds the story while giving it heart, and his performance gives the film a generational contrast that keeps it fresh. Now, let's talk about the villain. The social media-obsessed golf prodigy is a role that could have easily been one-dimensional, but the actor playing him goes all in. He's flashy, arrogant, dramatic. Imagine a mix between a YouTube prankster and a reality TV villain with an endorsement deal for every occasion. He plays it big, but never cartoonish. You can tell he understands that the character is more than a loudmouth. There are moments where his eyes flicker with insecurity, where the bravado falters just long enough for you to realize this guy isn't evil. He's just desperate to matter. It's a layered performance disguised in flashy sneakers and viral catchphrases, and it works better than it has any right to. Some of the returning cast from the original film also pop up for smaller roles, and every time they're on screen, it's like a wave of nostalgic energy. Shooter McGavin. Oh, he's back, and the actor delivers every line with the same smarmy, ego-fueled intensity that made him iconic. But here's the fun part. Now he's older, maybe a bit wiser, and plays the role with this bitter veteran edge that makes every scene he's in pop. There's even a short sequence where he and Happy are forced to work together, and the chemistry between the actors is hilarious and tense in the best way possible. Supporting roles also shine. Julie Bowen returns as Happy's longtime partner, and her scenes have a subtle emotional weight to them. She doesn't just serve as moral support. She calls Happy out when he's being a child and reminds him of what really matters. Her performance is calm, steady, and brings a much-needed dose of sincerity into a story full of outlandish moments. Even minor characters like a cranky golf official, a rival commentator, and a mysterious old groundskeeper get memorable moments, thanks to strong comedic timing and sharp delivery. What makes the performances in Happy Gilmore 2 so fun to watch is that everyone seems completely in on the joke, but no one treats it like a joke. Every actor commits fully to their role, whether they're delivering heartfelt advice or arguing with a golf cart. It's that commitment that keeps the energy high, the humor sharp, and the story believable even when it's completely ridiculous. The cast knows they're swinging big, and they hit it straight down the fairway. Now, let's talk about the person steering the chaos, the director. Because with a sequel like Happy Gilmore 2, the direction has to juggle a lot, honoring the original, bringing something new to the table, balancing slapstick comedy with real emotional moments, and somehow keeping it all from flying off the rails. And here, the director absolutely leans into that challenge with style, energy, and a real understanding of what makes Happy's world tick. From the first frame, the tone is clear. It's bold, brash, and unapologetically ridiculous, but never without purpose. The director knows this world is absurd, so instead of toning it down, they crank it up and fully embrace the chaos. Golf balls flying through windows, trash talking at press conferences, training montages with music, so over the top it feels like a parody of itself. It all works because the tone is so consistent. You're not meant to take it seriously, but you're meant to care. And that's a tricky line to walk, but the director walks it confidently with every scene. Stylistically, there are some really clever touches. For example, the flashback sequences are edited with this hazy, dreamlike glow that makes them feel like exaggerated legends being remembered by someone who probably isn't recalling them 100% accurately. There's a surreal edge to these moments, like when Happy imagines Chubbs giving him advice on a golf course made of clouds. These stylistic choices aren't just visual gimmicks, they deepen the emotional side of the story while keeping it visually entertaining. The pacing is sharp. No scene overstays its welcome, and the transitions between comedy and heart are surprisingly smooth. One minute you're laughing at Happy driving a golf cart into a fountain, and the next you're watching him quietly stare at a trophy case full of dust, wondering if his best years are behind him. The director makes those tonal shifts feel natural, not jarring. And in a comedy sequel, that's not easy. It keeps the film moving, never letting it sag or wander too far from its core energy. Shot composition is playful but purposeful. During the tournament scenes, the camera treats the golf course like a battlefield, low angles, dramatic zooms, sweeping pans. It's all exaggerated, but it adds intensity to the most ridiculous situations. There's even a slow-motion sequence of Happy launching a ball off a bouncing trampoline while fireworks explode behind him. It's pure chaos, but the way it's shot makes it feel epic. And it's that mix of absurdity and grandeur that gives the movie its pulse. The director also gives space for character moments. There are quiet scenes where the camera lingers just long enough to let a joke land or an emotion settle. You feel the weight of Happy's journey not because the film slows down, but because the direction knows when to let the characters breathe. Even in a film full of loud jokes and physical gags, those moments of stillness hit just as hard. And let's not forget how the director handles the ensemble cast. Every character gets a moment to shine, and that's not easy with so many personalities in one film. From the rookie's quiet determination to Shooter McGavin's theatrical bitterness, every performance is shaped and elevated by the director's ability to balance tone and timing. Nobody feels like a throwaway. Every subplot feeds the main story. The narrative vision is tight, controlled, and somehow still completely unhinged, in the best way possible. In the end, what really stands out is how much fun the direction is having. It's like the film knows it's outrageous and decides to celebrate that instead of dialing it down. It's confident, stylish, and wildly entertaining because the director is steering the whole thing like it's a comedy rock concert with a golf club as a baton. Every scene swings for the fences, and whether it lands or not, the vision behind it is always bold, clear, and fully committed to the madness of Happy Gilmore 2. Let's talk about how Happy Gilmore 2 looks, because the cinematography here isn't just doing its job, it's having a blast doing it. You'd think a comedy about golf would keep things visually simple, but not here. The camera work swings big, literally and creatively. The cinematographer leans into the absurdity, the emotion, and the mayhem, and somehow makes golf look like the most intense, dramatic sport in the world. Right from the opening scene, you can tell the visual style is dialed in. The lighting is bright and bold during tournament sequences, giving everything this oversaturated, almost game show glow. It's exaggerated, colorful, and hilarious, like the golf course is one giant playground of ego and adrenaline. The greens pop unnaturally, The sky looks like it was filtered through a soda commercial, and it all fits perfectly with the movie's chaotic tone. But when the story slows down, the lighting shifts. In quieter moments, like Happy visiting Chubb's old cabin or sitting alone in his garage, the light softens. There's a golden hour warmth, almost nostalgic, that makes those scenes feel personal and reflective without pulling away from the comedy. The contrast works because it mirrors Happy's emotional state without needing a single line of dialogue to explain it. Camera angles are where things get really fun. During matches, the cinematography goes full action movie mode. You get low-angle shots of Happy lining up a swing like he's about to launch a missile. There are POV shots from the golf ball as it flies through the air, weaving past trees, birds, and even one unlucky hot dog vendor. And in one truly unforgettable moment, the camera spins around Happy mid-swing in a Matrix-style 360, fireworks in the background, crowd cheering in slow motion. It's ridiculous, over the top, and completely perfect for this movie. The cinematographer clearly knows how to take a joke and elevate it into a visual event. Framing also plays a clever role in character dynamics. Happy is often placed dead center in the frame, especially during his most arrogant moments, giving him this dominating presence. But in scenes where he feels unsure or lost, the framing changes. He's off to the side, dwarfed by the surroundings, sometimes even partially obscured by objects like door frames or shadows. It's subtle, but you feel the shift. Meanwhile, the rookie golfer often starts off shot from below, giving him a small, uncertain appearance. But as his confidence grows, the camera slowly starts framing him on equal footing with Happy. By the time they're playing side by side in the big tournament, they're framed like equals, visually telling us how far he's come. There are a few visually striking moments that just stick with you. One comes during a stormy night practice session, where Happy's silhouette is lit by lightning flashes as he swings into the darkness. The scene is ridiculous, dramatic, and completely unnecessary, but it looks amazing and adds this mock-epic flair that the movie thrives on. Another great moment is a dream sequence where Happy imagines golfing in heaven with Chubbs. The lighting goes soft and surreal, everything is overexposed with glowing edges, and the whole sequence feels like a cheesy infomercial from the afterlife. It's bizarre, touching, and visually unforgettable. Even the most mundane scenes, walking through a locker room, chatting in a diner, are framed with care. The cinematographer uses reflective surfaces, tight close-ups, and clever blocking to keep things visually interesting even when nothing explosive is happening. And that consistency helps the film feel polished, like it's always giving you something fun to look at, whether it's a golf stunt or just two characters talking trash. The cinematography in Happy Gilmore 2 doesn't just serve the story, it performs with it. It builds tension during the most absurd competitions, injects beauty into slapstick moments, and finds emotional depth in between all the chaos. It's big, bold, and unafraid to lean into the theatrical side of sports comedy. It knows that golf, in this world, isn't just a game. It's a battlefield, a stage, and a circus. And the camera never lets you forget it. Let's talk about the rhythm of this wild ride, because editing and pacing are what keep Happy Gilmore 2 from turning into complete cinematic chaos. And believe me, it comes close more than once. But here's the surprise. The editing team pulls it off like pros. The movie is fast, funny, and tightly packed with energy, yet it still knows when to hit the brakes, take a breath, and let a moment land. From the first scene, the pace grabs you by the collar and yells, "Let's go." No dragging setups, no slow introductions. It throws you right into Happy's world. Older, but not necessarily wiser. The cuts are quick and punchy, especially in comedic moments. A single joke will bounce between 5 different characters' reactions in a matter of seconds, and it somehow makes the punchline hit even harder. The editing builds momentum like a snowball going downhill, stacking gags on top of awkward pauses, visual reactions, and perfectly timed cutaways. It feels like comedy choreography, and the rhythm is tight enough to keep you laughing without getting overwhelmed. But it's not just about laughs. The pacing also knows how to manage emotional beats. When the story dips into more personal territory, Happy reflecting on his legacy, bonding with his protege, visiting the old driving range. The movie slows down, but not too much. The editing gives these scenes just enough space to breathe, with longer takes, fewer cuts, and a softer tempo in the background score. It never lingers long enough to lose you, but it respects the emotional weight. That balance is what keeps the tone from spiraling into either full-on parody or melodrama. Transitions are slick and often playful. Flashbacks are introduced with a stylized zoom and a retro filter that lets you know you're jumping back in time without a title card or awkward exposition. Dream sequences and hallucinations are blended with surreal fades, echo effects, and deliberately jarring transitions that make them feel bizarre, but not confusing. One standout editing trick happens during a split-screen training montage. On one side, Happy's reliving his greatest hits in glorious slow-mo. On the other, the rookie is struggling through every step. The side-by-side contrast builds to a perfectly timed payoff where they both land the same swing in sync. It's visually fun and narratively satisfying, all thanks to clever timing in the cut. Now, let's talk about the pacing across the overall story. The first act moves fast, almost like it's afraid you'll check your phone if things slow down. It's a rapid-fire intro of characters, setups, and conflicts. By the time Happy accepts the challenge to come back, you're fully locked in. The second act settles into a smoother rhythm. It's where the movie builds its heart, training sequences, character bonding, a few setbacks, and it takes its time without losing energy. The final act, as expected, ramps things up again like a sports movie on rocket fuel. The editing here gets showy. Quick cuts, slow motion, dramatic stingers, countdown clocks, and everything but the kitchen sink flying across the screen. It's pure entertainment, and the pacing mirrors the chaos in the best way. That said, there are a couple of moments where the editing leans a little too hard into speed. A few character transitions happen almost too fast, like 1 second a side character is angry, and 2 scenes later they're completely on board without much setup. But even when it rushes, it never loses clarity. The story remains focused, and the momentum rarely dips. And for a comedy with action-level energy, that's a big win. In the end, the editing isn't just a technical element here. It's part of the comedy, part of the character, part of the voice of the film. It's the invisible engine keeping everything moving at just the right pace, whether we're flying through a golf stunt or lingering in a quiet moment of self-doubt. The rhythm of Happy Gilmore 2 is chaotic, sharp, emotional, and completely in sync with the madness of its lead character. And somehow, the edit keeps up without missing a beat. Let's talk sound, because in Happy Gilmore 2, the music doesn't just sit in the background quietly supporting the action. It leaps out, crashes through speakers, yells in your face, then somehow makes you tear up 30 minutes later. The soundtrack here is a roller coaster of attitude, nostalgia, ridiculousness, and a few unexpected emotional punches that land harder than one of Happy's tee shots. Right off the bat, the film makes its musical intentions clear. The opening scene is backed by a loud, retro rock anthem that instantly throws you back to the reckless vibe of the original. The guitar riffs come in hot, the drums crash with every punchline, and it's clear that the sound team wants you to feel the comedy as much as hear it. The soundtrack is packed with energy, classic rock hits, over-the-top pump-up tracks, and a few surprising choices that totally work in context. One training montage is set to an 80s power ballad, and it somehow turns a ridiculous exercise routine into something that feels both triumphant and hilariously self-aware. It's all about tone, and the music gets it perfectly. Then there's the score, which is more nuanced than you'd expect. Beneath all the headbanging guitar and wild synth drops, there's an actual musical backbone that supports the film's emotional arc. When Happy is struggling, mentally, emotionally, even physically, the music slows down, pulls back, and gives the scene some breathing room. There's a recurring piano motif that sneaks in whenever Happy is reflecting on his past. It's simple, soft, and quietly moving. What's brilliant is how this same motif evolves. Early on, it plays like a hesitant memory. Later, as he reconnects with his purpose, it returns, bolder, fuller, more layered. It's subtle storytelling through melody, and it adds emotional weight without forcing anything. Silence is another tool the film uses with surprising effectiveness. In a movie where every other scene sounds like a sports arena or a rock concert, the moments where the music drops out entirely are powerful. There's one particular scene where Happy's alone on the green, late at night, replaying a mistake in his head. No music, just ambient sound. The wind, the creak of the trees, the distant echo of his own angry muttering. It's raw. It makes you lean in. The silence lets the emotion hit harder than any soundtrack could. And that kind of restraint, it shows that the sound design isn't just there to fill space. It's working in sync with the story. And when the music wants to go big, it goes big. The final match sequence is a full-blown musical spectacle. The score swells with cinematic intensity, echoing the over-the-top energy of sports films, but always with a wink. There's a moment where the orchestral score actually fuses with a remix of Happy's old walk-up song, creating a bizarre but glorious hybrid that somehow feels like the climax of a superhero movie and a halftime show all at once. The timing of the music is razor-sharp, syncing perfectly with swings, reactions, and crowd eruptions. It turns the match into an emotional crescendo without ever losing its comedic edge. Even the needle drops, those big licensed tracks that kick in for dramatic effect, are used with a wink. Whether it's a ridiculous pop song blasting during a completely inappropriate moment or a slow, soulful jam playing as Happy stares into the distance with a hot dog in one hand and regret in the other, the contrast is part of the fun. The film knows how to use music as a joke, as an emotional cue, and sometimes even as a character in itself. The soundtrack and score in Happy Gilmore 2 aren't just background noise, they're key players in the story. They amplify the laughs, deepen the emotion, and give the entire film a rhythm that's impossible to ignore. Whether it's a heartfelt piano line or a blaring rock anthem mid-swing, the music is always saying something. And what it's saying, loudly and proudly, is that Happy might be older, but he's still swinging to his own beat. Let's talk sound, because in Happy Gilmore 2, the music doesn't just sit in the background quietly supporting the action. It leaps out, crashes through speakers, yells in your face, then somehow makes you tear up 30 minutes later. The soundtrack here is a roller coaster of attitude, nostalgia, ridiculousness, and a few unexpected emotional punches that land harder than one of Happy's tee shots. Right off the bat, the film makes its musical intentions clear. The opening scene is backed by a loud, retro rock anthem that instantly throws you back to the reckless vibe of the original. The guitar riffs come in hot, the drums crash with every punchline, and it's clear that the sound team wants you to feel the comedy as much as hear it. The soundtrack is packed with energy, classic rock hits, over-the-top pump-up tracks, and a few surprising choices that totally work in context. One training montage is set to an 80s power ballad, and it somehow turns a ridiculous exercise routine into something that feels both triumphant and hilariously self-aware. It's all about tone, and the music gets it perfectly. Then there's the score, which is more nuanced than you'd expect. Beneath all the headbanging guitar and wild synth drops, there's an actual musical backbone that supports the film's emotional arc. When Happy is struggling, mentally, emotionally, even physically, the music slows down, pulls back, and gives the scene some breathing room. There's a recurring piano motif that sneaks in whenever Happy is reflecting on his past. It's simple, soft, and quietly moving. What's brilliant is how this same motif evolves. Early on, it plays like a hesitant memory. Later, as he reconnects with his purpose, it returns, bolder, fuller, more layered. It's subtle storytelling through melody, and it adds emotional weight without forcing anything. Silence is another tool the film uses with surprising effectiveness. In a movie where every other scene sounds like a sports arena or a rock concert, the moments where the music drops out entirely are powerful. There's one particular scene where Happy's alone on the green, late at night, replaying a mistake in his head. No music, just ambient sound. The wind, the creak of the trees, the distant echo of his own angry muttering. It's raw. It makes you lean in. The silence lets the emotion hit harder than any soundtrack could. And that kind of restraint, it shows that the sound design isn't just there to fill space. It's working in sync with the story. And when the music wants to go big, it goes big. The final match sequence is a full-blown musical spectacle. The score swells with cinematic intensity, echoing the over-the-top energy of sports films, but always with a wink. There's a moment where the orchestral score actually fuses with a remix of Happy's old walk-up song, creating a bizarre but glorious hybrid that somehow feels like the climax of a superhero movie and a halftime show all at once. The timing of the music is razor-sharp, syncing perfectly with swings, reactions, and crowd eruptions. It turns the match into an emotional crescendo without ever losing its comedic edge. Even the needle drops, those big licensed tracks that kick in for dramatic effect, are used with a wink. Whether it's a ridiculous pop song blasting during a completely inappropriate moment or a slow, soulful jam playing as Happy stares into the distance with a hot dog in one hand and regret in the other, the contrast is part of the fun. The film knows how to use music as a joke, as an emotional cue, and sometimes even as a character in itself. The soundtrack and score in Happy Gilmore 2 aren't just background noise, they're key players in the story. They amplify the laughs, deepen the emotion, and give the entire film a rhythm that's impossible to ignore. Whether it's a heartfelt piano line or a blaring rock anthem mid-swing, the music is always saying something. And what it's saying, loudly and proudly, is that Happy might be older, but he's still swinging to his own beat. Let's get into the digital wizardry because Happy Gilmore 2 is not shy about swinging big when it comes to visual effects. This isn't just a golf comedy with a few explosions in the background. This movie takes full advantage of modern VFX technology to dial the absurdity up to 11. But here's the trick. It doesn't feel out of place. The effects blend right into the exaggerated, larger-than-life world the film builds. They're not trying to be subtle, they're trying to be fun. And they succeed. Right from the first over-the-top golf shot, you know what kind of ride you're in for. The CGI golf balls don't just travel. They soar through the sky with trail smoke, whip through trees in slow motion, ricochet off water hazards, and even explode into glitter at one point. And it all fits. The effects aren't trying to be realistic. They're meant to feel like someone animated Happy's imagination, then projected it directly into the film. That blend of stylized CGI with physical comedy keeps the tone light while giving the action scenes some genuine spectacle. One of the best uses of CGI comes in the dream sequences. These moments are totally surreal. Happy imagining a match in the afterlife, playing golf on the moon, even revisiting his younger self through a magical golf simulator. These scenes lean hard into visual effects, but the stylized nature of the environments makes it work. Everything is hypersaturated, exaggerated, and just unreal enough to sell the illusion. And because the film plays these moments for laughs and heart rather than realism, the CGI supports the tone rather than distracting from it. There are also moments where practical effects sneak in alongside the digital ones, and those combinations are some of the film's most fun. For example, during a training montage, there's a full-blown wind tunnel test, Happy getting blasted by hurricane-force wind while trying to land a drive on a moving platform. The wind, the debris, and the real physical struggle are all done practically, but the background and ball trajectory are digitally enhanced. That combo works beautifully. You feel the chaos, but the effects add just enough cartoon physics to make it feel like a live-action video game. One of the most outrageous uses of CGI happens during the final tournament. The course itself is a digital monster, a fantasyland of golf insanity, complete with moving platforms, rotating sand traps, holographic scoreboards, and a volcano-shaped 18th hole that erupts every time someone sinks a birdie. It's pure spectacle. The digital design of this course makes the climax feel like the final level of a video game, and it turns every shot into an event. The ball doesn't just roll into the cup. It travels through loops, dodges obstacles, and literally lights up like a pinball machine. It's chaotic, but that chaos is precisely what makes it such a visual blast. But even with all that CGI, the film doesn't forget about its roots. There are plenty of moments where practical stunts and effects are still front and center. A golf cart crash that sends Happy flying through a concession stand? That's a real stunt. A full-sized animatronic gator in a swamp-side training sequence? Yep, it's there, chomping away. These practical touches give the film a tangible feel and help ground some of the madness. The CGI takes care of the impossible, while the practical effects keep the world from floating too far into cartoon territory. Where the film really nails it is in how it treats its effects as part of the joke. A slow-mo CGI-enhanced shot of Happy launching a drive from a rooftop might be ridiculous, but it's played like the most serious moment in sports history. The irony in that visual style is where the comedy hits hardest. The movie knows it's being extra, and the effects are in on the joke. The visual effects in Happy Gilmore 2 aren't there to create realism. They're there to make the impossible possible, to turn ordinary sports moments into outrageous cinematic spectacles, and to have a blast doing it. Whether it's glitter bombs, meteor-smashed golf balls, or a lava-filled putting green, the VFX is dialed into the film's humor and energy. It's not just eye candy, it's part of the punchline. Let's talk about the playground where all this madness unfolds, because Happy Gilmore 2 turns its sets and locations into full-blown characters. From the humble beginnings to the explosive final match, the production design is loud, clever, and packed with personality. You're not just watching people play golf. You're stepping into a world that feels like it was designed by a team of sports architects with a sense of humor and a wild imagination. We start with familiar territory, Happy's neighborhood, still full of rusted fences, half-patched golf nets, and old garages that double as training grounds. The set design here is beautifully worn down, like time has passed but nothing's really changed. Happy's home is full of trophies, cracked picture frames, and golf memorabilia stuffed into corners, like a shrine to past glory that's been left half-dusted. Every item feels like it has a story behind it, even the broken club mounted on the wall. These settings immediately tell you everything you need to know about where Happy is in life. Nostalgic, stuck, and itching for one more shot. Then we hit the training montage, and the locations start to open up. There's a rundown driving range that looks like it's held together by duct tape and coffee, a swampy backwoods mini-course where Happy makes the rookie practice chip shots while fending off mosquitoes, and even an abandoned amusement park that gets repurposed into a ridiculous golf obstacle course. Each place is completely different but still fits the tone of the film, low budget, weirdly charming, and totally happy. Now, when it comes to the big leagues, the production design goes wild. The professional tournaments take place at these oversized, hyper-designed golf resorts that look like luxury sports arenas crossed with Vegas theme parks. One course is entirely built around a desert oasis, complete with faux pyramids and sand traps shaped like scarabs. Another one is up in the mountains, with cable cars replacing golf carts and bridges swinging between cliffs. But the real star is the final tournament course, the ultimate visual centerpiece of the film. It's less a golf course and more a full-blown golf theme park. We're talking moving platforms, neon-lit fairways, floating greens surrounded by water cannons, and even a final hole built into a giant animatronic gator's mouth. Every part of this course is designed to challenge the characters and delight the audience. It's theatrical, over the top, and perfect for the Happy Gilmore universe. But the real magic is how all these sets reflect character arcs. Happy's personal spaces are cramped and cluttered, like his mind. The rookie's training grounds start off uninspiring but become more vibrant as his confidence grows. The professional courses, with all their artificial polish, represent the flashy world Happy's never quite fit into. And the final course? It's pure chaos. It's Happy's world, built for stunts, surprises, and a little bit of violence. The production team didn't just throw props together, they built a story into every location. Props and set dressing are used brilliantly throughout. Clubs are customized, golf carts are tricked out like hot rods, and even the spectators carry personality, foam fingers, bizarre costumes, signs that say, "Swing it like Gilmore." You get the sense that the world around the characters is as unhinged as they are. And yet, none of it feels random. It's all part of this exaggerated version of reality, where a golf swing can cause a small earthquake and a locker room pep talk happens in front of a wall of flamethrowers. What makes the set design so fun is that it doesn't just serve the story, it constantly pushes it further. Every location is built for visual gags, story beats, and big emotional moments. Whether it's a sentimental scene in a dimly lit garage or a showdown on a volcano-themed putting green, the environments always match the mood. amplify the comedy, and keep your eyes glued to the screen. The settings aren't just backdrops, they're part of the swing. The dialogue in Happy Gilmore 2 is like a perfectly timed slapshot to the funny bone. Fast, loud, occasionally heartwarming, and unapologetically ridiculous. From the very first scene, the script wastes no time re-establishing Happy's signature voice. Brutally honest, proudly unfiltered, and as rough around the edges as ever. He hasn't lost a bit of that wild energy, and neither has the writing team behind him. They bring a script packed with one-liners, insults, motivational rants, and absurd golf metaphors that hit you like a surprise swing to the face. The humor leans heavily into timing, and that's where the dialogue truly shines. Jokes aren't just dropped for laughs. They're built into conversations so naturally that you often don't even see the punchlines coming. Characters fire back at each other with the kind of rhythm you'd expect from a screwball comedy, but the delivery has that modern, self-aware twist that keeps it feeling fresh. Happy gets some of the most memorable lines, especially when he's trash-talking other players on the green or screaming at inanimate objects. But what makes the script work so well is that almost every character gets their moment to shine. The rookie protege has a sarcastic edge and slowly learns how to dish out comebacks of his own. The rival pro is a master of smug one-liners. And even the referee has a running gag about always being ignored mid-sentence. But it's not all just jokes. The script balances out the laughs with surprising moments of emotional honesty. There's a quiet scene between Happy and his old coach where they reflect on aging, legacy, and what it means to pass the torch. The way the dialogue slows down, becomes less performative and more personal, gives the film just enough heart to ground all the madness. These aren't deep philosophical exchanges. They're still very much in character, filled with awkward pauses and gruff deflections, but they carry weight. And that's the magic of the script. It knows when to push hard for laughs and when to pull back just enough to let the characters breathe. There are plenty of standout lines that are bound to stick in pop culture. One scene has Happy yelling at a drone-operated golf ball dispenser, calling it the spawn of tech and Satan. Another moment has the rookie nervously muttering, "I'm about to putt in front of 1,000 people and a man dressed like a dinosaur." This is not in the manual. The final showdown features an exchange where Happy says, "Winning ain't about playing perfect. It's about swinging like you've got nothing left to prove." It's silly, sure, but weirdly inspiring in the way only a Happy Gilmore quote can be. Callbacks to the original film are smartly peppered in without being forced. The script reuses a few iconic lines in new contexts that either flip them for comedic effect or give them a nostalgic punch. Longtime fans will definitely catch them and grin. But newcomers won't feel lost either. Everything's built to stand on its own while still tipping the cap to the past. And when it comes to writing style, the pacing is snappy and energetic. Conversations never drag. Even during training sequences or in between scenes, there's always something clever being said. It's a script that refuses to sit still, constantly pushing forward with humor, personality, and a few unexpected emotional gut punches. In the end, the dialogue and script in Happy Gilmore 2 don't just serve the story, they power it. Every joke, every insult, every heartfelt admission is crafted to either make you laugh or make you care. Whether it's a punchline shouted mid-swing or a quiet line mumbled in a locker room, the writing finds a way to hit the green every time. Happy Gilmore 2 doesn't just stick to the sports comedy genre. It tees it up, smashes it with a hockey stick, and sends it flying into the bleachers. This is a film that knows exactly what sandbox it's playing in, and then gleefully builds a rocket-powered golf cart to tear across it. It embraces the tropes of the underdog sports movie, the washed-up legend, the young hotshot, the overconfident rival, the make-or-break final showdown, but it twists them just enough to keep you laughing, guessing, and weirdly invested. Let's start with the sports side of things. There's golf, of course, but it's golf the Happy Gilmore way. That means more chaos than calm. Traditional sports movie rules get broken almost immediately. Training montages involve paintball, dodging golf balls at point-blank range, and even a slap fight inside a pro shop. The tournament scenes never feel stuffy or overly technical. They're built like gladiator matches, complete with booming announcers, rowdy crowds, and surreal course designs that wouldn't be out of place in a video game. The film takes the familiar beats of the genre, failure, training, rematch, redemption, and injects them with pure comedic adrenaline. But what makes Happy Gilmore 2 stand out is how well it balances that absurdity with genuine emotional notes. It never forgets that, deep down, it's about a guy trying to prove he's still got something left in the tank and a kid learning what it means to play with heart. That's where the drama slips in. Not in long, tearful speeches or serious breakdowns, but in quiet moments that feel earned. The genre formula is still there, mentor and mentee, comeback arcs, the legacy angle, but it's dressed in a neon tracksuit and yelling through a megaphone. You feel the stakes, but you're laughing the whole way through. The film also plays with subverting expectations. Just when you think you've seen the cliché coming, it swerves. The hot-headed rookie isn't just cocky, he's deeply insecure and borderline conspiracy theory paranoid. The rival pro, who you expect to be a straight-up villain, ends up being weirdly supportive and bizarrely spiritual. Even the inevitable, "you've got to find your swing," speech turns into an argument about breakfast cereal and ends with a squirrel stealing someone's glove. It's the kind of movie that knows what you expect from the genre and then throws a water hazard-sized curveball right at it. Comedy, obviously, is the film's lifeblood. The genre blend here is heavily tilted toward laughs, but it never forgets its sports roots. The tension during the final match builds like a true championship game. The shots are ridiculous, the odds are insane, and yet you're genuinely rooting for the ball to drop in the hole. That balance is hard to nail, keeping comedy front and center without undercutting the excitement. But this sequel manages to juggle both like a pro caddy with too many clubs. What also helps is how the film riffs on modern sports culture. It pokes fun at sponsorships, social media influencers, and hyper-stylized athletes, making the genre feel up to date without preaching or pandering. It's satire that blends seamlessly into the plot. There's even a subplot about VR golf simulators and a holographic coach that feels like it's mocking the trend of tech invading tradition, all while giving the audience more to laugh at and cheer for. Ultimately, Happy Gilmore 2 is a genre cocktail, one part classic underdog sports movie, one part screwball comedy, and one part emotional redemption arc with a twist of absurdity. It plays the genre game, sure, but it also grabs the rulebook, rips out a few pages, sets them on fire, and uses them to light a celebratory cigar after sinking a hole-in-one with a slap shot. Happy Gilmore 2 may wear the jersey of a wild sports comedy, but tucked beneath the loud jokes and golf ball mayhem is a surprisingly clever and pointed layer of social and cultural commentary. It's not the kind of film that hits you over the head with a message, but it sure does smirk at the world while making one. And in true Happy Gilmore fashion, it delivers its commentary not through monologues or lectures, but through chaos, irony, and a whole lot of comedic timing. One of the first areas the film takes a swing at is celebrity culture, especially the modern obsession with influencers and viral fame. The new generation of golf pros in this movie aren't just swinging clubs, they're streaming every shot, selling merch between holes, and posting emotional slow-mo motivational reels. There's a young golfer whose swing is always accompanied by a drone camera and an auto-tune soundtrack, and another who spends more time posing for sponsors than practicing. It's a hilarious jab at the way sports have turned into content factories, where marketability often trumps talent. The film doesn't condemn it outright, but it pokes fun with enough edge that you feel the satire cutting through the jokes. Another major theme woven into the story is the generational divide. Happy himself represents the old-school athlete, rough around the edges, not always polished, but full of grit. The newer players represent a culture obsessed with image, branding, and fast-tracked success. Throughout the movie, this contrast is played for laughs, but also builds into a broader commentary about how traditions and values evolve, or get pushed aside, in the modern sports world. There's a scene where Happy is forced to sit through a VR golf seminar hosted by an algorithm, and his baffled expression alone sums up the feeling of many who've watched their industries or hobbies become unrecognizable. The film also touches on class in a sly, punchy way. Golf, traditionally a sport with elite status, is flipped back into the hands of the underdogs. Happy's return isn't to the country club, It's to a community course where gophers run wild and half the holes are sponsored by local plumbing services. The contrast between the glitzy, sponsor-filled pro tournaments and the grimy grassroots matches adds a quiet but effective commentary on accessibility in sports. You get the sense that Happy Gilmore 2 is celebrating the misfits, the outsiders, the folks who never had a silver spoon but still know how to swing hard and hustle. Even the relationship between mentor and protege carries weight beyond the laughs. There's an unspoken nod to issues of toxic masculinity and emotional repression, as Happy learns to open up and express things in ways that go beyond shouting and punching. He's still brash, sure, but the film sneaks in a bit of character growth that mirrors changing conversations around male vulnerability. It's subtle, often disguised as a joke or a throwaway line, but it gives the comedy a little more heft. There are also moments that play with political satire, though the film never gets bogged down by it. One of the villainous characters is a corporate exec trying to buy out public golf spaces and replace them with AI-driven private clubs. It's a ridiculous plotline, but it echoes real-world concerns about tech monopolies, corporate overreach, and the erosion of public spaces. Again, the commentary isn't the main course. It's the spicy side dish, but it adds flavor to the story. The best part is that none of this commentary ever feels tacked on. It's blended right into the humor, embedded in the characters, the situations, and the absurdity. It lets the audience laugh while also thinking just a little bit deeper about the world it's parodying. Whether it's mocking influencer culture, highlighting generational tension, or satirizing the commodification of sports, Happy Gilmore 2 manages to say something without ever acting like it's delivering a speech. It's commentary served with a wink, a laugh, and maybe a golf club flying through the air. Happy Gilmore 2 is designed for audience reaction, big laughs, loud cheers, and maybe even a few misty-eyed moments you didn't see coming. It knows exactly how to play the crowd, pulling from a deep well of nostalgia while also keeping things fresh enough that even those unfamiliar with the original can jump in and have a blast. From the very first scene, where Happy launches a golf ball through a moving food truck window, you know this movie isn't just here to entertain. It's here to make you feel involved. The humor hits on multiple levels. For longtime fans, there are callbacks and Easter eggs that hit like applause breaks. The return of old characters, the revival of iconic jokes, even the way Happy still does that ridiculous running slapshot swing, it all lands with a kind of giddy familiarity. But it's not just relying on the past. There's plenty of new material that draws real-time reactions. Whether it's an outrageous one-liner, a perfectly timed pratfall, or a completely unexpected guest cameo, the comedy is sharp, absurd, and fast-paced enough to keep the crowd roaring. It's the kind of film that makes watching in a packed theater feel like being at a live show. Laughs roll across the audience in waves. But beyond the laughs, there's an emotional core that sneaks up on you. Happy's journey back into the spotlight is less about reclaiming glory and more about facing time, legacy, and letting go of pride. There are moments, quiet, surprisingly tender ones, where you can hear the audience go silent. One of the most touching scenes involves Happy visiting the grave of his mentor, talking out loud like the guy is still giving him advice. It's funny, but also gut-punch real. That mix of heart and humor pulls audiences in on a deeper level. You're laughing, then suddenly you're feeling something. And that emotional hook makes the big moments feel even bigger. The climax, an all-or-nothing golf match that's part comedy spectacle, part heartfelt finale, gets the crowd on its feet, figuratively and maybe even literally. There are gasps when things go wrong, whoops when they go right, and the kind of collective energy you only get when a movie knows how to make people care. What really boosts engagement is how the film invites audiences to come back for more. It's rewatchable in that perfect comfort movie kind of way. You'll want to revisit scenes just to catch jokes you missed, spot more background gags, or simply re-experience the joyful chaos. The kind of film where the more you watch, the more fun you have. And because it blends slapstick comedy with genuine emotional arcs, it also invites discussion about the legacy of the original, the way comedy has evolved, and how nostalgia can be used effectively rather than lazily. It's also highly quotable. Expect audiences to walk out repeating lines, mimicking Happy's signature swing and debating who had the best moment. Whether you're watching it in a theater full of laughing fans, on your couch with friends, or solo with a bag of popcorn and a grin on your face, Happy Gilmore 2 doesn't just entertain. It connects. It brings people into its world and dares them to laugh louder, cheer harder, and maybe even feel more than they expected. When you stack Happy Gilmore 2 up against other sports comedies, especially sequels, it immediately swings with more confidence than most. Sequels in the comedy world are a tricky beast. For every Anchorman 2 or Zoolander 2 that stumbles trying to recapture the magic, there's a rare one that gets it right by understanding what made the original tick while also evolving with the times. Happy Gilmore 2 lands closer to that rare win column. It's not just echoing jokes from the original like a karaoke cover band. It's riffing on them, twisting them, and layering in new beats that speak to today's audiences. Compared to the original Happy Gilmore from 1996, the sequel is both a love letter and a subtle reinvention. The first movie was chaotic, scrappy, and gloriously unpolished, built on Adam Sandler's manic energy, outsider charm, and a fight-the-system spirit that turned a hockey-loving brawler into an unlikely golf hero. The sequel captures that same underdog DNA, but updates the stakes. Now, it's not just about earning respect. It's about legacy, relevance, and how someone like Happy fits into a world that's changed around him. Where the first film was raw energy, the second adds a layer of maturity without losing its punch. It feels like a spiritual sequel that grew up just enough to add emotional weight, but not so much that it stopped being fun. Against other Sandler comedies, this one finds a surprisingly strong footing. In recent years, Sandler's projects have ranged from broad goofball fare like Hubie Halloween to dramatic swings like Uncut Gems and Hustle. Happy Gilmore 2 threads the needle. It's classic Sandler chaos, but with the controlled delivery of a comedian who's mastered his own rhythm. Compared to movies like Grown Ups or You Don't Mess with the Zohan, it feels more focused, more character-driven, and more intentional in its humor. It doesn't just rely on cameos and absurd gags, though it has those. It builds a story that moves. Now, zooming out and comparing it to other sports comedies, it has a clear voice in a crowded genre. Where Caddyshack leaned fully into absurdist satire and The One Boy mined slapstick from pure nonsense, Happy Gilmore 2 strikes a sweet spot between silliness and sentiment. It doesn't try to out-crazy something like Dodgeball, nor does it fall into the trap of being overly sincere like some later sports films that forgot they were supposed to be funny. It balances parody and homage, taking jabs at influencer culture and modern sports hype while still delivering a classic comeback narrative. Even compared to more recent underdog sports films like King Richard or Air, which are grounded in realism, Happy Gilmore 2 says, sure, but what if we also broke a golf cart mid-celebration and turned a training montage into a mockumentary? It doesn't play by the rules, and that's what makes it feel fresh. Franchise-wise, it stands apart from some of the weaker attempts to revive classic characters. Think about how Coming to America or Dumb and Dumber tried to update old formulas but felt like awkward retreads. Happy Gilmore 2 avoids that by being just self-aware enough. It knows you remember the first movie. It knows what scenes are iconic. But it doesn't get stuck in reenacting the past. Instead, it builds on it, pushing Happy into a new era, giving him new challenges, and surrounding him with younger characters who reflect the absurdity of modern fame. It uses its legacy as a trampoline, not a crutch. Even from a genre execution standpoint, Happy Gilmore 2 understands what audiences love about sports comedies: the stakes, the structure, and the satisfying payoff. You get your rivalries, your training arc, your final match that comes down to one last, impossibly improbable shot. But the way it packages all of that, with irreverence, with clever social digs, with a seasoned comic touch, makes it stand out in a genre that often leans on cliches. This is the sequel that doesn't just bring back the laughs. It reminds you why the first one hit so hard in the first place, then dares to hit you again, just in a new way. Happy Gilmore 2 might look like pure comedic chaos on the surface: wild golf swings, outrageous characters, and enough one-liners to fill a driving range. But dig a little deeper, and you'll find a surprising layer of symbolism and metaphor woven through the film's absurdity. Just like the first movie, which used golf as a stage for personal redemption and identity, the sequel doubles down on that idea, but expands the metaphors to explore aging, purpose, and the clash between authenticity and modern spectacle. One of the most prominent symbolic threads is the golf course itself. In the original, it was a battlefield, a place where Happy fought to fit into a world that didn't accept him. In the sequel, the golf course has changed. It's sleeker, more corporate, decked out with digital billboards, drone cameras, influencer pop-ups, and luxury skyboxes. It no longer feels like neutral turf. It's a metaphor for how modern culture commercializes everything, even personal triumph. Happy's struggle to compete in this new arena isn't just about hitting the ball farther or straighter. It's about reclaiming something authentic in a world obsessed with image. The physical space becomes a mirror for the emotional one. Happy versus a culture that forgot why it loved him in the first place. Then there's Happy's iconic swing. It's still ridiculous. Still completely impractical. But in Happy Gilmore 2, it takes on more symbolic weight. That swing becomes a metaphor for holding on to your roots, even when the world demands polish and perfection. Throughout the film, coaches, fans, and even rivals try to convince him to drop it, to modernize, to play it safe. But when Happy sticks with it, it's a defiant statement. Your weirdness is your weapon. It's a metaphor for self-acceptance in the face of conformity, and when he finally lands a pivotal shot using it, it doesn't just win the game. It reinforces a central theme of the movie, the power of staying true to who you are. Shoes are another subtle motif that echo this idea. We see Happy lacing up his old, worn-in sneakers from the first film, shoes that clearly don't belong in a high-tech, sponsor-covered tournament. They become a visual metaphor for the baggage we carry from our past, but also the foundations that built us. There's even a scene where he's offered sleek, state-of-the-art gear, but turns it down in favor of his beat-up kicks. It's not just stubbornness, it's a symbol of remembering where you came from and honoring it. Recurring imagery of broken equipment, golf clubs snapping, carts crashing, drones short-circuiting, also plays into the film's metaphor about systems failing when they try to control something raw and real. Happy thrives in chaos. The more controlled and sanitized things become, the more everything breaks down. That's not just visual comedy, it's thematic commentary. There's even a moment where Happy, surrounded by malfunctioning tech, yells, "This ain't golf, it's a light show with snacks." It's funny, but it's also layered, a metaphor for how authenticity gets drowned out by spectacle. And then there's the water imagery. Just like in the first movie, where Happy famously told a stubborn golf ball to go to your home and ended up jumping into a lake in frustration, water once again becomes a symbolic element. This time, it's about peace. Happy spends more time near water, fishing, reflecting, even talking to his late mentor while sitting lakeside. Water here isn't chaos, it's clarity. It represents the inner calm he's trying to find as the world spirals into noise. The contrast between the manic energy of the golf tournaments and the serene water scenes creates a metaphorical balance. Chaos outside, peace inside. Even the rival character, an influencer-turned-pro golfer who wears flashy gear and speaks in hashtags, is more than a punchline. He becomes a metaphor for everything Happy isn't. Curated, marketable, and fake. Their rivalry isn't just about golf. It's about integrity versus branding. When Happy finally beats him, it's not just a victory for a character. It's a win for something real in a world that's obsessed with filters. So yes, beneath all the yelling, slapstick, and flying golf balls, Happy Gilmore 2 has plenty going on under the surface. It uses sports comedy as a vehicle for deeper questions. What does it mean to stay true to yourself? How do you evolve without selling out? Can the past still matter in a future built on trends? The answers might come wrapped in laughs, but they're there, hidden in sneakers, water, chaos, and one very stubborn golf swing. Happy Gilmore 2 steps onto the green not just as a standalone comedy, but as a direct continuation of one of the most beloved sports comedies of the 1990s. The original Happy Gilmore wasn't just a hit, it became a cultural touchstone. It was loud, brash, quotable, and it carved a unique place in the sports movie landscape by mixing underdog grit with absurdist humor. So naturally, when a sequel arrives nearly 3 decades later, expectations aren't just high, they're loaded with nostalgia, curiosity, and the pressure of living up to a legend. This sequel leans into its legacy in smart ways. It doesn't try to overwrite the original or pretend the time gap didn't happen. Instead, it embraces the passage of time as part of the story. Happy is older, crankier, and a bit out of touch with the influencer-heavy, hyper-marketed golf world of today. That's not a bug. It's the core conflict. He's not just battling opponents on the course, he's battling irrelevance in a game that's evolved beyond him. This brings a sense of full-circle development to the franchise. In the first film, Happy was the outsider trying to crash the gates of elite golf. Now, he's the aging icon watching the gates swing open for a new breed that doesn't care about tradition or authenticity. It adds a layer of poignancy to the madness. The film also pays tribute to the first movie in ways that feel earned rather than forced. Characters like Chubbs Peterson are referenced with affection, and old footage is used sparingly but meaningfully. It doesn't just drop cameos or name drops for easy applause. Instead, the callbacks are layered into the story as emotional checkpoints, reminders of where Happy started, how far he's come, and how some things never really change. Even the famed rivalry with Shooter McGavin gets a fresh twist, as we see how time has humbled even the most arrogant of foes. Whether it's a small cameo or just a mention, the ghosts of the original cast still haunt the franchise in the best possible way. Structurally, the film mirrors the original in clever ways. There's a qualifying tournament. There's an underdog climb. There's a climactic showdown. But instead of simply rehashing the beats, Happy Gilmore 2 recontextualizes them. The tension isn't about whether Happy can win. It's about whether his style of play, his attitude, his very identity still belongs in a world that now prizes polish over personality. That conflict stretches beyond golf and taps into real-world themes about aging, relevance, and the tension between tradition and innovation. In terms of franchise evolution, this film marks a shift from pure slapstick to something that blends comedy with character-driven storytelling. It's still silly, still loud, still packed with outrageous moments, but it has a weight to it that the first didn't aim for. That's not a flaw, it's growth. The franchise is maturing alongside its character, proving that even the wildest comedy can deepen over time without losing its soul. From a cultural standpoint, Happy Gilmore 2 also reflects how the world around it has changed. Golf, once the symbol of uptight exclusivity, is now battling for younger, more diverse audiences. The film taps into that tension, using it as both backdrop and battleground. And while it satirizes the influencer generation, it also shows how charisma and authenticity, two things Happy has in spades, can still cut through the noise. That makes the sequel not just a nostalgic return, but a relevant commentary wrapped in golf balls and flying fists. So while Happy Gilmore 2 brings the laughs, it also carries the torch. It acknowledges the franchise's history, respects its roots, and uses its legacy not as a crutch, but as a launch pad. This is a sequel that doesn't forget where it came from, but it knows the game has changed, and it's ready to play by its own rules once again. When it comes to Happy Gilmore 2, the budget and box office story is almost as wild as Happy's backswing. Universal Pictures didn't hold back on this one. The film had a reported production budget in the range of $65 to $75 million, which might raise a few eyebrows considering the original Happy Gilmore was made for just $12 million back in 1996. But times have changed, and this sequel wasn't just aiming to make a comedy. It was a full-fledged event, a nostalgic reunion mixed with modern-day spectacle. So where did the money go? You can see it all over the screen. Bigger golf courses with cinematic drone shots, lush resort backdrops, lavish tournaments with roaring crowds, over-the-top training montages that feel like they were ripped from a sports blockbuster. The production quality was polished from top to bottom. Even the golf sequences felt elevated, with slow-motion drives, dynamic angles, and the kind of visual finesse you'd expect from a much more serious sports film. The budget also allowed for practical effects mixed with slick visual flourishes. Imagine slow-mo club twirls, beer-soaked celebrations in high definition, and a soundtrack packed with licensed hits from multiple decades. They went all in and it shows. Now, let's talk about the box office. The film had a strong opening weekend, fueled by massive nostalgia, a smart marketing campaign, and a very meme-worthy trailer that hit all the right beats. The marketing leaned heavily into callbacks, classic quotes, iconic characters, and even some cryptic teasers that featured Happy's old putter peeking out of a trophy case. Audiences were primed, and the film delivered a perfect storm of comedy and comfort. It pulled in over $120 million globally in its first 2 weeks, and word of mouth kept the momentum going. It eventually passed the $200 million mark worldwide, a massive success for a comedy sequel in a time when most theatrical comedies are struggling to break even. But what made this performance even more impressive was how it balanced both older fans and newer audiences. While longtime viewers came for nostalgia, younger audiences, many of whom had only seen clips of the original online, were drawn in by the film's modern energy and the presence of new cast members with big social media followings. The cross-generational appeal gave the film legs in the box office, and it became a rare comedy that actually grew with each weekend, not shrank. Streaming also played a role. Even before it finished its theatrical run, the film had prearranged streaming rights that added another revenue stream. Internationally, where comedy doesn't always translate, it still managed solid numbers in countries with strong golf fan bases and love for American slapstick. And while critics were mixed, audience scores were through the roof. Happy was back, and the world was happy to pay to see him. So when you break it down, Happy Gilmore 2 wasn't just a box office win, it was a strategic slam dunk. Smart budgeting that put money where it counts, marketing that knew exactly which heartstrings to pull, and a final product that made people laugh, cheer, and remember why they fell in love with Happy in the first place. It wasn't just a financial success. It was a reminder that sometimes, with the right swing, even an old-school comedy can hit a hole in one. Happy Gilmore 2 teed off in theaters first, and if you're someone who appreciates the communal joy of hearing a full crowd crack up at every ridiculous one-liner or gasping in unison when Happy smacks a golf ball into the face of a smug rival, this is the format that delivers maximum impact. Theatrical release gave the film the scale it deserves, with sweeping golf landscapes filling the big screen, thunderous sound design capturing the whoosh of Happy's unorthodox swing, and the kind of roaring laughter and shared nostalgia that no home setup can quite match. The energy in the room is electric, especially when longtime fans react to surprise appearances or callback lines that hit like applause triggers. But if you missed it during its theatrical run, or you just prefer yelling "Jackass" at Shooter McGavin from the comfort of your couch, you're in luck. After about a month-long exclusive window, Happy Gilmore 2 made its way to premium video-on-demand platforms, where you can rent or buy it in stunning 4K. Watching it at home has its perks, especially for rewatching your favorite scenes or pausing during laugh breaks. Plus, the film's layered with tiny visual gags and background jokes that are even more fun to catch on repeat viewings. And let's be honest, there's something oddly perfect about watching Happy go berserk on a golf course while wearing pajamas and holding a bowl of popcorn. Streaming availability followed shortly after, and this is where the film really exploded in reach. The platform rollout was strategic. Dropping on a major streamer with a huge comedy catalog ensured that it found a new audience who may have missed the first one entirely. Binge watchers stumbled upon it, curious younger viewers clicked play after seeing viral clips on social media, and within days, it landed in the top 10 most watched list. Watching it via streaming also gives fans the chance to double feature it with the original Happy Gilmore, which most platforms bundled as a golf comedy classic duo. That kind of nostalgic doubleheader just hits different. The best way to experience Happy Gilmore 2 really depends on your vibe. Want the full, immersive, laugh-out-loud group reaction with surround sound and larger-than-life visuals? Theaters are the way to go. Prefer to shout quotes at the screen, rewind Happy's slapshot drives, or dissect the new villain's ridiculous fashion choices in private? Streaming or digital rental lets you do all of that on your terms. Either way, it's a film that knows how to entertain across formats. It's not just about watching a movie. It's about reliving an era, reconnecting with an icon, and celebrating absurdity at its finest, whether you're seated in row F of your local cinema or sprawled across a recliner at home.